Richard Louie, MSNBC anchor. Mildred Garcia, president.
It is now my distinct honor to introduce your keynote speaker, MSNBC anchor Richard Louie. That's right. Since joining MSNBC in 2010, Mr. Louie has anchored some of the world's biggest news stories, including the Deficit Supercommittee failure, the Arab Spring, and the 2011 debt ceiling debate. Prior to joining MSNBC, Mr. Louie spent 5 years at CNN worldwide, most recently with CNN Headline News as the sole anchor of Morning Express. He also led the network's morning political reporting throughout the 2008 presidential election, and he has more than 60,000 Twitter followers who look to him as a spokesperson for gender equity, immigration reform, and other humanitarian issues. In addition to his extensive broadcasting and journalism career, Mr. Louie spent 15 years working in consulting, manufacturing, environmental industries, and more. He recently co-founded the first bank-centric payment system and has worked for firms such as Citibank and Mercer Management Consultant. He also spent a quarter century in community service in Africa, Asia, and throughout the U.S., and in 2014, he was awarded the American Courage Award for Distinguished Service from the Asian Americans Advancing Justice. A lifelong learner, Mr. Louie received his bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley, an MBA from the University of Michigan, and he's currently enrolled in the International Security Program at Stanford University. And so what's not on his resume? He's a warm and kind spirit. I visited him at 30 Rock, and he went around making sure that I met everyone there, warmly and excited about his job. And I asked, what do you do for fun? He says when he travels, he volunteers for things like Habitat for Humanity. I am honored to invite a new Titan, Richard Louie, to the lectern to deliver the 2015 commencement address. Please join me in giving him a warm Titan welcome.
Well, thank you, President Mildred Garcia, Vice President Greg Sachs, as well as Senior Director Francis Tevis for your kind invitation today. How are you guys doing? Yeah. So, question for you first. A little bit of a contest. I want to know who's prouder of all 30,000 of you. 30,000. Let's start with the parents and family. You proud? Oh, they got a horn back there. That is the Titans' hello, I guess. On the stage, proud? And class of 2015, are you proud? I like that so much. I like you guys that much. I like who's on stage here this much. I want you to stand up and hug somebody. This is a big hug. Come on. God. Stand up and hug somebody. Parents, you too. Come on. Stand up. It's been quite a trek, 4 or 5 years.
I gotta hug you.
Right, hugs for...
Did that not feel good? Wow. Because that's what a commencement is. It is a huge hug, and I have never been to a bigger hug in my life. So, I know right now some of you are worried about your caps. You have to get it right. You looking good? Yeah, you're looking good. But look at some of your caps out there. I saw them on the way in. You know, caps with 20 pins in them. Caps that are sitting off to the back, you know. I don't know how they're standing up like that. Some off to the side, looks like they're growing out of your ear. All kinds. And you know why? Because it's all about good hair, isn't it? It's all about good hair. Come on, you can admit it. You know, you were thinking about that this morning. So, you know, this hair thing, as a broadcast journalist, I'm a lot like you, every day. When it's go time, when the camera is on, It's aimed at you. You have to have good hair. I'm always like, all right, this is me, man. Look, is it all right? Imagine doing that every day. So it's a pretty difficult and interesting profession. And to be honest, and to be a little bit more serious, talking so much about hair runs in my family. You see, it would make my grandfather smile if he heard me talking about hair today. You see, he was a barber. And he came here originally poor. He was a poor farmer coming from his family in China. And you know, machetes and thickets was his game when he was in China. Problem was, when he came to the United States in 1909, there wasn't much demand for farmers speaking Chinese. So he thought about what he knew how to do and applied it to his passion. And that answer was cutting hair. And I can see it right now, right? You know, there's my dad sitting in the kitchen in San Francisco, Grandpa practicing on him, machete style. Oof. He had 2 older brothers for a while. Well, after a while, on the barbershop wall of my grandfather's place, the pictures of local politicians and famous people, that increased. Grandpa got better, and somehow it was enough to raise 12 children. Just like a business innovates to survive, Grandpa was a personal innovator, moving to a new country where he did not speak the language and changing careers completely. I wonder what brought him to take those calculated risks. And it came down to 2 questions I believe he asked himself. If there was anything in the world I could do right now, what would that be? And if I were 90 years old and on my deathbed, would what I'm doing right now be what I'm most proud of? For Grandpa, that answer was no. So he moved and brought his young bride with him to the United States. So his children would not be him. We should ask those very same questions. We should be ready to cut hair. Now, a century later, there I was, just out of business school, and instead of accepting the offer from the company to pay for half of my tuition, I decided to become a news anchor in Asia. Makes a lot of sense, right? This was the phone call. It went a lot like this. Hello, Dad? Yeah, hi. So, I'm going to reject that consulting job for $100,000. Yeah, I'm going to take this anchoring job in Singapore. It's $45,000. Yeah. Yeah, I got to repay my school sponsorship too. I am basically paying to work for them. Yep. I'm making negative $25,000 the first year. Bad. What? You're taking away my yellow card? What are you talking about? That was a conversation. 2 years later, I did join CNN. And if I could do anything in the world, it was to become a journalist, to follow a passion that started as a 13-year-old listening to a transistor radio. And the plan was to treat my new career as a business. I was a product, like a bar of soap at the supermarket. And in the process, you know, I'm looking in the mirror and I discover something for the very first time. First off, bad hair. Second, I'm Asian American. Look at that skin, those eyes, the nose. Ooh, look at that nose. Now, as a broadcast journalist, I have to own who I am, unlike any previous job I have ever had. I'm an Asian American male, and that's what people see first. And with that started a new journey of understanding and accepting myself over the last 12 years. That process of looking inside resulted in me doing more outside, volunteering at nonprofits for ethnic, gender, and socioeconomic equality. And as a result, my personal and professional network expanded. I became an ambassador and a spokesperson for UN Women, Plan International, and others. On Angel Island in California, you know, the Ellis Island of the West, my cousins and I bought a plaque. It is to honor my grandparents. And I can't help but think how lucky I am, because my grandfather was so different than others of his time. What? You're going to America? Why would you do that? You can work on the farm. Come on. You're going to open a barbershop and cut hair? What, are you crazy? Your kids will have no future. Well, Grandpa, son of China, poor immigrant, non-English speaking, I never met you, but thank you. Your grandson is a national network anchor, and you are right. This is America. Titans, that's your story too. Be great personal innovators as you go forward. Create your own hair-cutting story. So, did I tell you it's good to be here? Well, parents, family, friends, I already know you're proud. You were screaming earlier. I'm proud too because my entire family went to a CSU. CSU Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton, a very special place. It helps to generate something you know quite well, over $3 billion in earnings for their alumni, all of you and the alumni you're about to be. The place that for every dollar spent returns 5 times that to the state's economy. You guys are doing okay. That's better than Apple stock. But it's not all business at CSU Fullerton. At Cal State Fullerton, how about that 1.4 million hours of community service by all of you each and every year? I'm interested, graduates, who's part of that here? 2 people. Impossible, because I did the calculation. 1.4 million hours. That would take one full-time person working 700 years straight. And that's in 1 year. You were the ones, I believe here, Titans, that changed the complexion of selfish America. The skill you have that others do not have to allow you to do that, I do believe it is because you know how to water more than just one plant. And what do I mean by that? Let's just say you have a gallon of water every day. 80% of it goes to your main plant. We'll call that your education. But Titans, as I mentioned, you also do a lot of volunteer work. That is your second plant. Part of the remaining 20% of your water, that goes to that. And I say plants because that indicates cultivation, growing, and nurturing. Many of you also have a third plant. It's your family, a relationship, or a job. 3 plants are good, 6 too many, and 1 not enough. And the reason is because with one plant, as many of us tend to do, what happens when that plant dies? What happens when that job falls through? The relationship ends. After that one plant dies, there is nothing else in the garden. So they say follow your passion, right? Let's do something today. Let's put an S at the end like the S in Titans. Follow your passions, plural. You agree? You know, James Kofi Annan did just that. I had the pleasure of telling his story on CNN some years back. James is a former child slave, exploited for sex and labor. But then somehow he escaped from his trafficker. And what he did, after he escaped from this fisherman in Ghana, he soon taught himself how to read, which led that to him putting himself through college. He knew it was his gateway. Not too soon after that he graduated, he became a manager at Barclays Bank. Along the way, he decided to start a school called Challenging Heights in Ghana to save children from his neighborhood from poverty and slavery. It was his second passion. And after some years, he decided he would quit that job and run the school full-time. His second passion became his first passion. And I believe if James can do it, we can too. And Cal State Fullerton is the place to learn to do that in both local and global ways. You know, Titans, here's another reason you are so unique. 1 in 3 of you are international students. 1 in 3 of you are Hispanic American. 1 in 5 of you are Asian American or Pacific Islander. 3 out of 4 of you are diverse. You are the success stories of the global community of America. That includes Fullerton graduates like Oscar winner Kevin Costner, who's been in over 50 films, seen around the world. He's a Titan. Astronaut Tracy Caldwell Dyson, who is on 3 space shuttles circling the Earth. She's a Titan. And like the more than 20 football players who joined the most popular league in the country, the NFL, they are Titans. These graduates and more change the country and the global community. They are you. So how will you know when you have made that big leap, that personal innovation I've been talking about, when you've learned to cut hair? It may not be the Oscar, the spacewalk, or an NFL team. It won't be a Wikipedia page or 1 million Twitter followers. Instead, it will be when you find out you aren't who you thought you were. You realize that you are an entirely different person, that you were able to start that business, raise that family, move to Ethiopia, become that humanitarian. Which brings me back to my grandfather. You see, he came to the U.S. illegally. The 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act did not allow any non-elite from China to immigrate to the United States. So my grandpa bought fake papers and became what's known as a paper son, a fake son on paper. And now what he did was he became a fake son of a legal U.S. family. He bought a new name. He gave up his birth name so he could come to the United States, which means my real name is Wong, and Louis is my purchased fake name. I am a descendant of illegal immigrants. My father and I first found out this fact after my grandmother's funeral, when her tombstone was installed. Our real name, Wong, was prominently displayed on the tombstone, and our fake purchase name, Louis, was right to its side. At the age of 40, my father was not who he thought he was, and neither was I. And so I finish with this story because that is what I believe personal innovation is. You do something that you didn't realize you could. You cut hair, and you realize you are not who you thought you were. You are much more. Go Titans! Congratulations.